Thomas hadn't slept properly in 3 years, not since Margaret died. The farm demanded everything from him now, swallowing his days whole and spitting out exhausted nights where he'd collapse on the couch. Too tired even to climb the stairs to their bedroom? He still couldn't think of it any other way. The October wind rattled the barn door as he made his final rounds before midnight. The cows were settled, hay distributed, gates secured, everything in its place except him. He was about to head back when he heard it, a sound so faint he almost missed it. A whimper barely human coming from the far corner near the old grain storage. His heart hammered as he grabbed the lantern and approached slowly. There, curled between hay bales and a threadbare coat, was a woman. She couldn't have been more than 25, with dark circles under her eyes and lips tinged blue from cold. Her small suitcase lay open beside her, revealing all her worldly possessions. A few dresses, a photograph, and an envelope with his address written on it. Thomas recognized that envelope. He'd written it himself 6 months ago in a moment of desperate loneliness, responding to one of those mail-order bride advertisements. They'd exchanged 3 letters before he'd come to his senses and stopped writing. He'd been embarrassed by his weakness, by the betrayal he felt toward Margaret's memory. He never sent the money for her passage. Never told her not to come either. The woman stirred, her eyes fluttering open with fear. She scrambled backward, speaking rapidly in broken English mixed with what he guessed was Russian. He caught only fragments. Sorry, please, nowhere else, cold. He raised his hands gently. It's okay, you're okay. I'm Thomas, you wrote to me. Her name was Katya. Over hot coffee in his kitchen, her story emerged in halting phrases. She'd sold everything to afford the journey, believing his letters meant a new life awaited. When he'd stopped writing, she'd convinced herself he was simply busy with harvest. She'd arrived in town that morning with his address, too proud to ask for directions, too afraid to admit she might not be wanted. She'd walked for hours before finding his farm at dusk, then hidden in the barn, planning to present herself properly in the morning. Now she stared into her cup, shame coloring her cheeks. I go back, she whispered. Somehow, Thomas looked at this stranger in his kitchen, at the way she held herself with dignity despite her humiliation. At the photograph in her suitcase he glimpsed of a younger Katya with people who must have been her family, all gone now according to her letters. He thought about the silence in this house, about eating alone, waking alone, working until exhaustion was the only companion he trusted. He thought about Margaret, about what she'd say if she could see him now, half alive, going through motions. Margaret would have already made up the guest room. Margaret would have insisted Katya stay. Margaret had always believed people came into your life exactly when they were meant to. The words came out before he could stop them. Marry me tonight, right now. Katya's eyes went wide. You crazy, she said, but there was something else in her expression, not hope exactly, but the faintest ember of possibility. He wasn't crazy, not quite. He was tired of being sensible, tired of the careful way he'd been living, protecting himself from more loss by refusing to live at all. Yes, maybe I am, he said. But you need a home, and I need, he paused, searching for truth. I need someone to need this place again, to need me again. We can figure out the rest. She studied him for a long moment. You kind man, she said finally, or very lonely man? Both, he admitted. The county clerk was Thomas's second cousin, accustomed to his late-night emergencies with livestock. He grumbled, but met them at the courthouse at 2 a.m. with a notary and the required paperwork. The ceremony lasted 4 minutes. Thomas slipped Margaret's wedding ring, which he'd been carrying in his pocket for 3 years, onto Katya's finger. It fit perfectly. They drove home in silence, the weight of what they'd done settling between them. At the house, he showed her to the guest room, stumbling over his words. No expectations, he said. We'll figure this out slowly. Build something real, maybe. Katya nodded, then surprised him by taking his weathered hand in both of hers. You saved my life tonight, she said. I not forget I make good wife. You see? He wanted to tell her he wasn't trying to save her, that maybe she'd saved him instead, but the words tangled in his throat. Instead, he squeezed her hands gently and said goodnight. Alone in his room, Thomas finally climbed into his bed, Margaret's side still untouched. For the first time in 3 years, he didn't feel the crushing emptiness. Instead, there was something fragile and new, the tentative beginning of hope, the sense that life might still hold surprises, that grace sometimes arrived shivering in barns, that love didn't always announce itself with trumpets but sometimes whispered in the dark, asking only for a chance. Outside, dawn was breaking over the farm, painting everything gold, and Thomas closed his eyes and slept.